Okay, we are here with my friend Patrick. If you guys have been watching the channel, you know Patrick has been on a couple of times. He owns a company called the Patina Group. Patina Group helps folks sell their car on Bring a Trailer. He and I auctioned a couple of mine off, but that's not what this video is about today. This video is about this hotted up 912. And I'm actually very excited to have this on the channel. I've been looking for one of these to feature. I want to learn more about them. Patrick is the new owner of this car, and he is super stoked. A customer actually was going to auction this. He saw it, he jumped on it, and so today he's going to talk to us about this particular example and also why he believes that 912s are the next hot thing. So Patrick, I'll turn it over to you, man.
Thanks, Will. Yeah, 912s. No one really cared about them 2-3 years ago. I know I definitely didn't. You kind of think it's like the 986 Boxster of air-cooleds. And then I was enlightened. I sold a 69 for a client that actually had a big bore kit, and I got in the car and started driving it, and I was like, this is very 911-ish with a much lower price point. And honestly, since then, the 912s have kind of been on my radar. Everyone has a soft spot. Well, most people have a soft spot for the 356. Those cars, much like the 912s, many people consider grossly underpowered by today's standards. But for whatever reason, the 912 got kind of a bad rap for a long time. And I think it's just ignorance, like anything else. As you know, these aren't cars you can just walk up to any dealership and drive and experience. So a lot of guys, their main experience, their main basis for these cars is what they have in the garage. And a lot of them never even drove one until they bought it. 912s to me are interesting because, like I said, they are very 911-ish at a much lower price point. The car that I sold, for example, 69, it was a beautiful, real close to aubergine color. It had a big bore kit, and we were happy to sell the car in the mid-50s. If you know the long hood market, you know mid-50s doesn't really get you much. That car with the big bore kit was right at 100 horsepower. So honestly, maybe 20-30 horsepower less than a T. So driving wise, it was comparable. Another plus of the big bore 4-cylinder is if it pops, you know, your rebuild costs are a fraction of a 2.2 or a 2.4. So that car really kind of got me thinking about 912s. I wasn't really like shopping for a 912. I was actually shopping for a 356, not actively, but I think I told you I just kind of had some money set aside, constantly looking for a nice Super 90, you know, B or C coupe. And then, you know, Pat, the previous owner of this car, reached out to me, said, hey, I've got a 912 that I'm thinking about selling, would like to talk to you about it. Started explaining the car to me, and I said, man, it sounds rad. I'd really love to see it and possibly work together. So Pat brought the car down to me from Tennessee. We met on a Friday or a Saturday, came down with his wife, truck and trailer. And honestly, as soon as I walked outside and saw this car, I started gushing over the color. Just little details. I love the steel wheels. I love the fact that it's still badged as a 912. A lot of guys are like out of shame. They'll pull the badges or they'll pull a 911 badge on it. The more he told me about the car, the more I learned about the car and kind of his process and what he had done. I was just really excited to sell it. And so it was in the building. I had to walk past it every day. And after about a week of torturing myself, I called Pat and I said, hey, I know, you know, the plan was to run this thing on Bring a Trailer, but if you'd be open to selling it to me, I'd love to buy it. We worked out a deal and I got the car.
So Patrick, I gotta just say that I imagine it's tough being in this business and being a car guy, because if I'm in your shoes, I'm like constantly tempted.
Oh yeah.
Whenever I see these cars coming through, not so much on the other end. That's not my jam.
Yeah.
But these guys here, and by the way, this is Patrick's beautiful 930. We're gonna have to get this on the channel at some point in time.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm kind of like you, Will. I have a certain amount of money that I like to play with the cars, and when something comes in, something's got to go out.
Yeah, I feel you, man. It's too bad. You can't keep them all.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, to justify this purchase, I sold my Ferrari. So a lot of people would think that's a backwards move. I had a beautiful Ferrari 360 Modena. After owning that car for 2.5 years, it was, you know, this is the car that kind of gave me the push to sell it.
Well, maintenance got to be, I mean, none of these air-cooleds are super cheap, but
yeah,
I got to believe it's better than Ferrari.
Yeah, it's a completely different world. It's kind of like, you know, people in Charlotte complaining about LA traffic in terms of maintenance costs on a Porsche versus a Ferrari. It's all relative, but a Ferrari will definitely make you appreciate the Porsche reliability and overall ownership experience costs greatly.
So let's talk about the motor, getting specific here. What can you tell me?
Yeah, so that's kind of the surprise of this car. It's a 6 swap. Pat, the previous owner, did this swap. This is a 2.2 that's been built to S spec. So it's 9.8:1 compression. It's got S cams. It's been twin plugged. It's got a nice set of original Weber 40s. And it's just a really happy little motor. It's funny, you know, some cars you get in, you turn the key, okay, maybe I'll start, and then eventually they get going. Other cars are just happy to run. And this is one of those cars that's just happy to run. And that was one of the things that I really loved about it the first time I drove it. That really kind of made an impression on me. So this is still a momentum car. You know, you call it a hot rod because 180 horsepower in a 2,200 pound car is plenty, but 280 is better.
So you would rally this with 911s and you could keep up and have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I would run middle of the pack in this car. I would not be trying to run in a fast group. You know, the 993 guys, the built 964 guys, you know, I can show them a good time in that car. It holds its own. It's got, you know, 12 years of innovation over this car. So from a suspension standpoint. But yeah, I've had enough time in this car. I consider it very reliable. I'm starting to learn the suspension, you know, running around on these 15-inch tires, obviously very different experience. May possibly change the wheel setup in the future. Will likely stick with a Steely, but yeah, just excited to take what is a great baseline and kind of fit it to my style.
Well, how about this? Let's jump in and go for a ride.
Sure.
All right, man, here we are back in a car that reminds me of the 69, but hopefully
rightfully so.
Not as edgy though. 901 transmission. Now you said you're going to put the Rennthusiast short shift kit on this car. Let's
Correct.
just get started there. Why you're going to be doing that, in case anyone out there does have a 901 and they're looking to improve it.
Yeah, I mean, it tightens up the throw, gives you a little more precise shifts. No worries about going from, you know, first to fourth. It's probably the most common in a 901. But the most important thing for me is it moves the position of the shifter itself. So most 901s, when you go to first, it's a dog leg. So like being taller, I've actually got to lift my knee up and then go under my knee. So the rim shift shifts the whole pattern over towards the passenger side and forward. Just gives you a little bit easier shifter location.
I ran a Wevo for a couple years and I thought it was cool, but then I got a wrench shift and it's like night and day difference. So confidence inspiring, it locks in.
This car is relatively comfortable. Like I said, I mean, with the SC suspension, it's like a nice balance, but yeah, it's definitely loud. It's got kind of a really loud spot running at about 3,500, and then if you stay in it, it quiets down a little bit, but it makes good noises. I mean, this is not a daily driver by any means.
No, man, but it's a ripper.
Yeah.
So I want to hear, like, what do you love most about this car, and then maybe what's one or two things that like annoy you about it?
Yeah, so I mean, the simplicity is definitely what I love the most. Comparing this car to my 930 even, it's a much different, even more analog experience. And then I have a 997 as well, which is kind of the bookend on the other end of the spectrum. So just the simplicity of this car. It has no idea what's going on outside. It has no sensors. You know, it's just kind of does what you tell it to do, no matter what.
Yep.
If I was going to change anything, you know, I don't know, I would love a 915. But that being said, this is a really excellent shifting 901, so I'm not complaining. You'll see, you know, 4th, 5th gear, just like most 901s, you've got a little bit of a whine. I mean, I wish it had the early idea how many miles are actually on this car. Certainly TMU.
You know what? It doesn't matter. Motor pulls hard, doesn't gush oil. That's all you can ask.
Exactly. It's just a tight driving car.
So, all right, let's get into kind of like advice mode. Sure. If a viewer out there is considering getting one of these, like what words of advice would you have for him or her?
I mean, it just depends on the experience level, right? If you're new to this hobby, you definitely need to find a pro that can help you. There are plenty of nice people within the PCA even that have experience. Also, don't be afraid to form an original opinion. You know, some of these old school guys will talk you out of literally every single car you look at for some reason or the other.
Except theirs that they bought for $7,000.
Right.
You know, they've worked on every nut and bolt.
Yeah, but always go see the car in person. I mean, read the seller, get underneath the car. If you don't know what you're looking at, but you see something that looks odd, say, hey, what's that? And if they kind of, oh, well, you know, it gives you a little bit, read the person, you know, talk to the person. If you're not someone that enjoys that experience, then hire a professional. PPIs are only as good as the person that does them, but I do recommend first-time buyers, you know, get a PPI. At least you have some level of a third party's perspective on the car. It's also not a bad idea if a shop is familiar with the car, you know, or has familiarized themselves with the car through the PPI process, you know, maybe get a few things done that need to be done immediately so that when you get the car, you can start enjoying it.
I've done that. You're right.
I tell guys all the time, you know, especially with the comments on, hey, it's a 40-year-old Porsche, could I drive it home 600 miles? It's like, you know, the car will probably make it. Mechanical issues rarely happen when it's convenient. And also, like, it's fun, like, it's so much fun to have adventures with these cars, but the best adventures are started from home, where you have a network of people around you that if you have an issue, you know, they can help you. So, I mean, there's a lot of, everyone does it different with remote purchases. I try to walk myself back from a worst case scenario.
Yeah.
You know,